It's real talky. This is very much written like a play.
Oh, she's so French. Oh, she's so French. She's so cute.
I would have been like, okay, so I'm studying abroad now and we're together and that's how it's going to be.
They're there in this town, in this moment with each other to be loved a little more.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Gen X podcast, a podcast dedicated to the pop culture that raised us. I'm Lori, a writer and pop culture lover who's overjoyed to welcome the amazing Amy Garis to wax poetic about 1995's romantic indie classic, Before Sunrise. But before we get into the self-discovery of it all, I'd like to tell you all about the wickedly talented Amy Garis. Amy is an actress, singer, songwriter, and mom of two young kids who inspire her beloved mom songs. I'm totally obsessed with them. We will talk more about those a little bit later. She's also a hopeful romantic who is married to her favorite actor. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
Thank you. Yay.
I'm so happy to have you. I haven't spoken to you probably since college sometime. We met in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We were in drama together for years and years.
We did scenes together. I remember The Bad Seed.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. The Bad Seed.
The Bad Seed. Yes.
You were the mom?
I think so. Yeah.
And I think I was like the bad seed little girl.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Memories.
Yeah.
Amy, you've always been such a talent. I remember in high school, you played guitar, you sang, you loved acting, and you went on actually to pursue a degree in theater.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And you're married to an actor.
Yes, I am. And yeah, that's where we met actually. It was in theater school. So we were in productions together there. So yeah, it's just been my whole life.
That's amazing. And of course, your husband is the wonderful, phenomenal actor, Ludwig Manookian.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's been in everything, Amy.
Oh my God. Yes.
I see him all the time.
I know. Yes. The wet teddy bear commercial he was just in. Yeah. He's done a bunch of things. He's my favorite. He was always my favorite. In college, I would always be sitting back in the seats and be like, oh, I would just be in awe of him. And now we get to work together, on our scenes and stuff. So.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
In 2016, you wrote, produced, and starred in a short film called Flipping Pages.
Yes.
It also starred your husband.
Yes, it did.
Oh my goodness. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that was, I really love writing. I love just putting a film together. And so I got a little bit of money together. I wrote this short film and I got a little crew together. And I really wanted to do something that my husband and I could do together because he's amazing. And so I wrote this short film, and actually it's kind of it's inspired by Before Sunrise, as a matter of fact. I mean, loosely. But it's this woman who is a writer and she's having major writer's block. And then this man who looks like he came out of a 1940s movie, steps in and is like, hey, how's it going? So they strike up a conversation in a coffee shop, and then she kind of leaves with him.
It is like this film.
It's very similar, different kind of scenarios. And, but I love that spark, that connection that can kind of happen, and that risk that you take when you sort of say, yes, I'm going to go with this person.
This stranger, but I feel something.
Yes, but I feel it's okay. It's safe. It's not some creepy weirdo. I'm going to go.
Let's be real clear, guys.
Murdered. Yeah. Yeah. So eventually, he's a photographer and he takes her picture and they have this moment. And then she's inspired again to continue writing. And
so he's like a muse.
He's like a muse that kind of comes in and kind of goes is he real? Is he not? We don't know.
And from their encounter, from their time together, she is forever changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I also know you got something in post-production also with your husband, the short film called Spank. You starred in this and you executive produced it.
Yes, it's technically out of production. We did actually screen that at a film festival in Canada.
Oh, cool.
It was called the Pomegranate Film Festival. And, it's really having to do with like Armenian filmmakers. And since the director and my husband are Armenian,
okay,
they were like in. So, yeah.
I love that you did that you wore so many hats.
Yeah.
So, Amy,
yes.
I know that you love this film. I wanted to know, like, what's your history with this film?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was doing a study abroad program in London at the time that I saw this movie. And one of the guys we were like, hanging out with that we're friends with was like, oh, you have to see this movie. He's like, it's so great. And we're like, okay. And so what we did is we're like in these like kind of flats, these apartments that they have for students.
Right.
And there's nothing there in these flats, you just bare minimum, like a little TV with like the turn knobs. Like that's all we had. Like, okay. This was like 1996.
Okay.
So we went to some video store, like VHS video store. Yeah. And rented like a VHS player.
You rented a VCR.
Yes.
Oh my
a VCR.
God.
Yeah. Is that what you call it? I'm like, what do you call it? Oh yeah, VCR. That's what you call them. I forgot. So we rented this player and this guy found this movie on VHS. So we just all gathered like in this little flat and watched the movie. And I was like, whoa, like it just hit me. Like it was so appropriate to where I was and what I was doing at the time.
Yes.
And I just got chills, like remembering, like thinking about it. It inspired me, I think, from that moment to be like, hey, you know what? I had like a little bit of time at the end of my study abroad. I had an extra month that I planned to just see what happened.
Like bum around Europe, see what happened. Oh
yes.
My God, what a dream.
Yes. So I did that. And so I was like, oh, I'll get a Eurail pass. I didn't know about them, I think, until this movie. Yeah, I was like, oh, I could do that. So,
that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so I did that. And, everywhere where we went was like trains, and I just have such a deep affinity for this movie because it's like looking out of the train for hours and all the people and the smell, like there's smells and like, like people talking and different countries. And it's just like,
so it feels personal for you.
It does. Yeah, it does. And a lot of other reasons too. So I can get into
I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. I think part of it was like, it inspired me to be like, oh, well, maybe if I ride the Eurail long enough, I'll eventually meet Ethan Hawke. Like maybe he'll show up and I can.
Honestly, like this was peak Ethan Hawke for me.
Oh yeah. Just sexy and like, but like kind of like offbeat, quirky and like smart, but like charming and a romantic, but also just like, I don't know. Just
and like slightly damaged in a way where you want to like maybe fix it. Cause you're young and you think you can.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
He needs someone to care for him and love him enough.
Yeah.
I think we all fell for Ethan Hawke in this film.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Amy, I don't know if you know this, but the idea for this film came from a real life encounter that Richard Linklater had. Did you know?
I've read that. I know. Like how amazing.
In fall of 1989, while visiting his sister in Philadelphia, Linklater met a woman named Amy Garis, and he met her in a toy shop. He told the New York Times, "This girl was flirting with me while I waited for my sister. So I wrote a little note like, hey, I'm in town for one night if you want to hang out." Well, she did. Wow. According to Slate, they spent the entire night from midnight until 6 a.m, walking around, flirting, doing the things you would never do now, talking about art, science, film, the gamut.
Mm.
And so this was like one of those really rare connections that you have with a stranger, right? And he knew that there was magic in it. Mm-hmm. He revealed to the New York Times in 2004 that even while he was in it, like even while he was with her, he was walking around thinking, God, if I could just capture this feeling.
Wow.
He even admitted as much to her. He told her, you know what? I'm going to make a film about this. And she was like, what this? What are you talking about? And he was like, just this feeling, this thing that's going on between us.
Oh, I love that.
That's a writer at heart.
Yeah.
It's being in a moment and being present enough to be like, I'm going to capture all of this. I want to remember the energy. I want to remember the look on your face. I want to have this and hold this and create something with it that will actually last forever, that I can share with people.
Yeah.
It's magic. It's some kind of magic.
Yes. I love magic.
When I told my husband that I was recording before sunrise, he was like, that movie, it was like, it's real talky. This is very much written like a play, right? This could easily be a play performed on stage.
Yes.
It is so dialogue driven. I really love it. But I love the really talky stuff. I'm into it.
Me too. Just seeing the moments that aren't broken, that are intact. They seem real.
They do seem real. It almost feels strangely voyeuristic, like you're overhearing something you're not supposed to be hearing.
Yeah.
When you watched this with your fellow classmates, were they all theater students?
Yeah, none of them were. We were just all seekers. We were just all, I feel like, looking for something.
Looking
for whatever that is. We're all 19, 20. We're just, at the beginning of our adult lives and trying to find, for me, it's like trying to find that connection with another person. And I think we were all trying to find that. And the people that I was with that introduced this film to me, they were writers and poets and, all kind of artistic people, creative people. We were just reading poetry and writing things, writing journals, writing everything down. We were, we were on trains and or in a pub and writing things down. So we were just very much just in tune with all of what was going around us.
At that age, you're just so ripe for the experiences, right? You're just so ready for it.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Richard Linklater, he has written and directed some of our favorite films. Slacker, obviously the whole Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, Dazed and Confused, Boyhood. Oh, Boyhood. Oh, that one got me.
I haven't seen it. I need to see it. I know. I need to see it because I love Richard Linklater.
Isn't he amazing?
Love it.
Yeah. So when he wanted to write the script for this film, he knew that he wanted to have a female co-writer. That was really important to him because he wanted to capture a strong female voice and point of view. So he chose writer and actress Kim Krizan, who was actually best known for two of his films, Slacker and Dazed and Confused.
Nice.
So he said he just loved the way her mind worked, a constant stream of confident and intelligent ideas. So his goal throughout the script was to examine the relationship side of life and discover two people who had complete anonymity and try to find out who they really were. Now, he had considered setting the film in the US, but when he was at the Vienna Film Festival for Dazed and Confused, he found out they had European subsidy money. I don't know what that means, but okay, they had money. I guess that meant they could film in Europe.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Okay, it's cheaper. So he figured, quote, when you're traveling, you're much more open to experiences outside of your usual realm. And that goes back to what you were saying, Amy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're open to so many things and you're just ready to say, yes, I'll go here, I'll go there, or just open to new ideas and new ways of doing things and new cultures and new people. And it's inspiring. And even for someone like me who really kind of lacks a sense of adventure, when I travel, I am a completely different person. Absolutely.
So the film premiered at Sundance on January 19th, 1995, and it was released in theaters on January 27th. The budget for the film was $2.5 million, and it made $5.5 million in the box office domestically and $17.2 million internationally. So it did very well internationally.
Yeah, that's not bad. People are like, yes. Yeah, I think it was different. It was just a different film for that time. Nothing had been done like that. I mean, Slacker and Dazed Confused were kind of, similar, but this was just the way that he makes movies, the characters having this experience was nothing was like that. It was all kind of sappy rom-coms.
And I think the idea of it spoke to that sort of glimmer of hope or something within all of us that's like, there's possibility out there. I think it just spoke to possibility and being young and ready.
Yeah.
I think it spoke to us.
Yeah.
And particularly us, because like you said, we were the perfect age. We were the demographic for this film.
Absolutely. And I think we're the generation for this type of film too. Like, coming with some baggage, coming with like wanting to kind of rebel against what our parents were doing, kind of, some of us from broken homes, like, my parents were divorced and like, trying to like figure out like, what is really love? Is there a long lasting connection? Are we going to just inevitably mess things up? And so all the questions that you start to ask yourself when you're coming into being, your own full person and trying to find another full person to share your life with.
Right. And I think too, it's sort of like when you're a young person, you don't really know yourself. You, like you said, you're a seeker and you're trying to figure out all the parts of you. And so if you are half of a fully realized person as a young person, meeting another half of a person, you kind of have this hope that together you make a whole and you can make some sense out of some of it.
Yes.
Because adulthood is confusing. These characters are asking all the same questions, even if we never bothered to articulate them in this way, even if we fall outside of what their theories and ideas are, it's sort of like, I haven't thought about it that way before. I have had those same thoughts and questions. It's comforting to see these people struggling at a time when you're struggling too. I mean, I have a 19-year-old and he is working his tail off to try to figure it out. And I told him like, there is no fast track to this. You have got to go through the wondering and questioning of it all. It's a process.
Yeah, it totally is. And you have to find it out for yourself and take those risks and take those journeys and take that train.
Speaking of taking the train, let's get into the plot of the film.
Okay. Woo!
We open inside of a moving train traveling through Austria. And there's a couple fighting on the train. And it's not subtitled, but I actually did a deep dive. I needed to know what they were fighting about.
Oh, awesome. I was like, I don't know. You feel like you're in Europe. Like you don't know what anyone's saying.
Like, I know. You're like, I have no idea. I thought like she was accusing him of infidelity or something. No, they were actually accusing each other of being alcoholics.
Wow.
Anyway, they're fighting. And we see Celine, a young, beautiful woman sitting there on the train, and she is uncomfortable by this. Like, I don't need to be around this. So she gets up and she changes seats. She finds herself seated across the aisle from Jesse. Let's talk casting.
Yes.
Linklater took 9 months to cast this film.
Whew, that's a lot. That's a long time.
It is.
Wow.
It was really important for him to get the chemistry of the characters just right.
Yeah.
So he said, I was looking for 2 creative partners. I wasn't looking for just 2 pretty faces.
I love that.
He got both. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
They're both gorgeous and they're both amazing. And their chemistry is just palpable. I mean, they're just right. They weren't rushing. I like that.
No, they weren't. And I think for him, because it was, inspired by his own experience, I think it was a real passion project for him that he really wanted to get right.
Yeah.
So, of course, Jesse is played by the one and only Ethan Hawke. We know and love him from a million things, including Dead Poet Society, Reality Bites, Gattaca, Boyhood, lots of stuff. But when casting was underway, Linklater was invited to see Hawke in a play in New York. Now, like I mentioned, at that time, Ethan Hawke had come off of Reality Bites. He was the hottest thing ever. He was like Mr. Gen X, right? So Hawke and Linklater ended up at a bar that night and they hung out until 4 a.m.
Wow.
And he heard all about this film that Linklater, was wanting to put together. And when he was sent the script, he just assumed he had the part. He's like, we were together till 4 a.m. He told me all about the project, like clearly. So he was all excited. He had ideas. He was like, I'm here for it. And then he learned, dude, you have not been offered the part. You have been offered an audition along with what Hawke called about 10,000 other people.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was humbling.
Wow. Talk about like putting yourself like in your place. Like, oh my God. Like,
better check myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm not that hot of
Oh my God.
star right now. Like, awesome. That's great. He had to work for it though, but then he had to really work for it. And I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah. And you have to see, like, does he work with Julie Delpy? Like,
exactly.
connect, or if they even had Julie Delpy at that time. Who did they cast first?
Okay.
Do you know?
I don't know who they cast first, but
Mm.
I do know that for the role of Celine, they saw a lot of actresses, including Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Aniston.
Whoa.
As we know, the role went to Julie Delpy. She has been in, obviously, all of these Sunrise trilogy films. She was in 2 Days in Paris, On the Verge. She's amazing. She's a phenomenal writer and actress.
And singer-songwriter. She writes her own like music and stuff. She's great. She's like my ideal. I love her. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
So casting director Judy Henderson said, I think they went with Julie because she was wonderful and they thought the French accent gave a definite feeling that Jesse was meeting someone who was not from his world.
Yes.
I would
That's
agree.
Great. I love that. Mm-hmm.
She went on to say Ethan and Julie had a chemistry that was electric and charming at the same time.
Mm.
Amen.
Yep. You got to have it. Got to have that.
Hawk said, meeting Julie was like meeting a character from a novel, like Anna Karenina or something. She's a very deep person. I'd never felt so American and so dumb in my life.
And you can totally see that in his face. Like he's trying to like hide that he feels dumb and American, but you can see like, oh yeah. Oh,
he's like, I wear this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He just
so good.
Yeah.
So Jesse, I mean, he's handsome. He looks cute. He's dressed in his burgundy turtleneck.
It's got a little hole.
That was actually his turtleneck.
Oh my God.
He said, my stepfather had given me this burgundy turtleneck and I was in love with it. I don't know why. And then I just immediately regretted it because it was really hot. What idiot thinks they look good in a turtleneck in summer in Vienna?
Oh my God. The American who doesn't really know what's
the dumb American.
That's who wears the turtleneck. Yeah.
I love it. I thought it made him look intellectual. I thought it made him look really smart. I was like, oh, he's a deep thinker, man. He wears a turtleneck.
I know. So cute. You go with your turtleneck.
With your turtleneck. And I love that she was wearing like a baby doll with a brown. I love that the color of that dress was brown. I don't know why that spoke to me so much, but just, the spaghetti strap dress over the baby doll tee. Like we wore that all the time. I have a million pictures of me wearing a baby doll with the dress over it.
Yes.
I love it.
I love it. And the flannel. She had like the flannel later.
Flannel.
Like the flannel. So 90s. We all had that flannel.
I love it. So versatile.
Yeah.
It's all back. You can get it at Target.
That's right. Yeah. I love that the 90s are like back. Like,
oh, they're so back. I just recorded an episode on Clueless and we talked for a long time about how all the outfits from Clueless are currently at Target right now.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. And like the little girls, like the tiny little girls are like wearing like the little spaghetti strap with the tees and like the combat boots. Like,
it makes me wish I saved all my dresses.
I know, me too. I didn't save hardly any of that. And I'm like, why?
Well, I'm assuming I could fit into it. I don't know that that's true, but it still would have been cool to have, sure call it vintage clothing. I mean, that's what it is. It all comes back. Yeah. Okay. So the two of them strike up a conversation and he invites her into the lounge car to continue talking. And this is when we learn that he's been bumming around Europe for a couple of weeks and he's on his way to Vienna to catch a flight home in the morning. So you did this, Amy. You bummed around Europe.
I did. I rode on a train for, it was a couple weeks. And then I had like a traveling partner that a girl that I met and we would just kind of went together because traveling alone, I wasn't too, I was like a young girl traveling alone. So one of the girls that I met there, she was like, hey, I'm staying after too. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So she was one of the ones that we saw the movie together. Okay. And so we were like, yeah, let's do this. So I wasn't totally by myself, but I was on the trains also. Like Jesse, we ran out of money very quickly. And because we were staying at hostels and like would go and stay at the cheap hostels, we had like everything in the backpack, like everything we needed in our little backpack. sometimes we didn't have enough money for like a place to stay. So we would just take the night train and like sleep on the train. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was a little weird. So that's why it's like good to have like a traveling partner. Like I didn't feel as like scared. Like, I did take some trains, around London and all of that by myself.
Did you ever meet a Jesse?
No, not really. We would meet people here and there at different places. Like when we got to Paris, my friend and I, there was this man, well, he was probably like a young guy, like we met on the train, who was Canadian and spoke French. And we're like, oh. Hey, let's like bum around with you. So he was really cool. Like, and then, so that was someone that we went to the museums together, and he like helped us like, find our way on the train. And like,
I mean, this is before Google Translate. Like we needed that.
Yeah. Yeah. You totally needed like a person, like a real live, like person that like, I don't think he was really into either of us, but it was just that fun moment of just like connecting with this guy and him kind of, and I think my friend and I felt safe. Like we could, just do that. And we just went around Paris and with this guy. And then 3 days later, he was gone and we were gone and we're like, bye. So,
wow. That's very cool. Like for this short time in your life, like this person was really important to you.
Yeah.
You had a life experience and then they were gone.
Yeah. And that's how it was. Like, and we didn't really feel like, with the need to like exchange anything. We were just like, yeah, you're just there. And then, yeah.
Wow. Well, Linkletter and Larhopt actually did exchange information, and it kind of fizzled out. And not long after he had met her, he ended up in a new relationship. So they never actually spoke again. And he wondered if she would show up at a Before Sunrise screening or something, but she never did. And he didn't know this at the time, but Larhopt died in a motorcycle accident in 94, just weeks before filming began for this film.
Oh my God. That is heartbreaking.
He didn't even find out about this until years later, when one of her friends who knew about their magical night together, she pieced it together and wrote him to tell him the news. I mean, isn't that so heartbreaking?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so sad. Oh, geez.
Okay. Well, we learned Celine is a college student and she's returning home to Paris. And this is when they began sharing a little bit about themselves. We learned that Jesse has always had a BS detector. He revels in doing the opposite of what people tell him to do. To be young.
Yeah.
Celine reveals that her parents were constantly converting her fanciful ambitions into practical money-making ventures. If she said she wanted to be a writer, her dad was like, you mean journalist? If she wanted to be an actress, he was like, you mean TV newscaster? Now, Amy, as an actress, singer, and songwriter, how did your family feel about you pursuing a degree in theater, pursuing your creative passions?
Well, I think my family was like, as long as you go to school, that's all that matters. Like go to college. And I was like, okay. So I think that's why I went to college, first of all, thinking I was going to be a theater major, and getting there and being like, what? I was not really ready for that. And so I think that's part of what inspired me to want to just go to Europe and figure things out. Because I really obviously learned a lot, and it really shaped who I was. And my family, I think they were fine as long as I majored in something. And eventually, I was like, okay, I was kind of like, Celine's parents, where I was like, okay, well, I'm a theater major. I guess I got to go teach theater. Like I wasn't really ready to start going out and pursuing acting full time. I was like, okay, I guess I'll be a teacher. And, I love teaching, and obviously inspired by our teacher, Mr. Baird. And I think that's kind of my fallback, was like, oh, not really fallback, because I don't want to, say like teaching is.
No, we love teachers. I mean, what a noble profession. Yeah. So important. I mean, look how H.K. Baird shaped your life, shaped all of our lives.
Absolutely.
So many of the guests that I have had on this season have been Mr. Baird's students and have gone on to do amazing creative things. Yeah. But for you just weren't ready at that point in your life to pursue acting. You took what maybe felt a little bit safer. Now, you were a theater teacher for years, right?
Yeah. 12 years. I was a theater teacher.
12 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. But all that during that time, like, once I'd been teaching for a few years, I was like, I need to be on stage for myself again, because I was directing plays and, teaching acting, and I had great students. So I started acting while teaching, and I did plays. I was involved in theater companies and started writing for some of the theater companies I was in and doing more of that. Yeah. So I eventually started to do it again while I was teaching. It was kind of like this,
that's like transitional period.
Yes,
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, you've acted in several short films. Mm-hmm. You've been in independent films, TV movies, TV pilot,
commercial, tons of plays, and still doing it, still auditioning every day. And once my son was born, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to go after acting full-time. Well, as full-time as I could, having a baby.
I mean, it really does shift the focus, right?
Yeah.
That happened for me too. I was working a job that flat out, I did not enjoy it. It was not the best use of my talents. And I worked it for, 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had kids, and you reach a point where you're like, it's now or never. Time is passing. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to look back on my life with regret. So like Celine, there's a little of Celine in all of us. She's a dreamer, and it's a brave choice.
Yes.
Jesse tells a story about being a small child and seeing a vision of his dead grandmother.
I love that part. Oh my goodness.
I really do too. It was really beautifully written.
I just love, and I love how he's like, describe,
like in the prism.
Yeah.
She seems charmed by this, and as a direct foil to her own character, she's like, I am afraid of death 24/7. This is why I'm on a train. I don't fly. I'm afraid of flying. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's so challenging to be someone like Celine, who is a dreamer, who has a lot of fears.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true for a lot of dreamers. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people who have a lot of creative, tendencies or abilities, and we also are deeply scared. And maybe that's why we can be so in touch with our emotions and our creativity, is because we can access all of those feelings, because we are afraid and also idealistic and excited about things at the same time.
It's a push-pull, right?
Yeah, it is. I think that's from my own experience. Yeah. That's exactly how I feel, like scared, but also, but I want to do this,
But I want to do this. And it's a calling, really. And I mean, I think for anyone that puts themselves out there, I think we look at people who, create the thing, people who are acting on stage, acting in TV and film, doing podcasts, whatever your medium is, right? You're an influencer. I don't know, whatever you do. You look at them and you assume they're unafraid because they're actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And I would argue, pretty much all those people are afraid. They're just doing it anyway.
Yes.
And that's where I draw my inspiration from. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're not afraid.
Mm-hmm. Do it anyway.
Yeah. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I love the pacing of their conversations. Yes. I mean, I feel like it's almost this like unspoken beauty to this film, because there are moments that are like very awkward. There's lulls in their conversation. Mm-hmm. It feels so authentic to like a true conversation where somebody says something and the other person maybe blushes a little about that and doesn't really know how to respond. And it feels so real.
It feels so real. Like I wonder how much of it is improv. Like how much did they actually improv?
I know the answer to that.
Oh, nice.
Delpy and Hawk both had a really heavy hand in the script.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So in 2016, Delpy told Creative Screenwriting, Ethan and I basically rewrote all of it. There was an original screenplay, but it wasn't very romantic, believe it or not. It was just a lot of talking rather than romance. Richard hired us because he knew that we were writing, and he wanted us to bring that romance to the film. We actually brought those romantic ideas, and that's how I wrote something that actually got made without really getting credit for it. But if I had written Before Sunrise and been credited, then I doubt it would have been financed.
Wow.
I mean, that's a definite possibility. Mm-hmm. Ethan Hawke told the New York Times, it didn't piss me off. He was talking about the fact that there wasn't a discussion to credit them as writers. He said, it felt like such a grand adventure. I used to joke there were times when Julie and I didn't want credit because we were so sure it was going to be bad.
Yeah, I understand how they feel. Though.
Yeah.
Like you're putting yourself out there. When you're writing your own dialogue, those are your words. I mean,
right. Like you want it, but you don't want it. Like if it's received well, then I want the credit. If it's not received well, then I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
They are credited on the other two films though, as writers.
That's good.
So soon enough, they're approaching Jesse's stop in Vienna and they're both disappointed. I mean, he says like, God, I wish I'd met you earlier. I've been on the train forever. I really like talking to you. And then he works up the courage. I guess he has this moment of bravery where he proposes his insane idea. He says, if I don't ask you, it will haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
He says, you should get off the train with me in Vienna and check it out. And he's like, look, jump ahead 10, 20 years. You're married. Okay. It's not the same energy between you guys anymore. You start to blame your husband and you think about all the guys in your life that could have been. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
He's like, you should think of this as time travel.
I love it.
And she's amused by him. And she's like, yeah, okay. Okay. Yes.
She gets off. I love that she does that. And you can see that, I feel like that moment right before he comes over and she's kind of looking out the window. I kind of feel like, oh, she had that feeling too. I bet she was already there.
100%, Amy. I think that too. I think she was like, do I get off the train with them? Mm-hmm. Is that stupid?
Yeah.
Should I suggest it? Am I that girl?
Yeah. And it's so funny for such a feminist that she claims she is.
Yes.
She's waiting for him to say the things,
right.
Yeah, instead of her. But I get it. She's in that moment where she's like, how do you know what to do? But
how do you know?
How do you know?
So they get off the train and they're walking. They fully acknowledge the awkwardness of this. Like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah. I love that they do that. Yeah. Cause that's how it would be. You'd be like, okay, no, what did we just do?
Like we did this. Like, this is the moment I think where he's like, oh, like I'm Jesse. Like they haven't even exchanged names.
Yeah. Wow.
She gets off the train with an unknown person, fully unknown to her. But yet she feels somehow that she knows him on a deeper level. It's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So this is when they're on that bus, train, whatever that is. And Jesse's like, okay, like rapid fire. I'm going to ask you some questions. This is an icebreaker game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't call it that, but that's basically what it is. Let's push past the awkwardness and let's get to the meat of it. So he's like, I'm going to ask you some questions and you have to answer 100% honestly. And he goes all in. He's like, what were your first sexual feelings towards someone?
Yeah.
She asks him, have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
He asks her, what pisses you off? I love her answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She hates being told to smile by strange men.
Yeah.
Amen, sister. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
She hates that there's a war happening 300 kilometers from there. Mm-hmm. She hates that the media is trying to control their minds. Mm-hmm. And she hates when she gets mad, especially in places like America. They think it's like fully adorable and precious. Like, oh, it's so French.
Yeah.
How cute.
It's so French. It's so cute. Yeah. I love her. Yeah. But it is kind of also adorable. But I get it. She's like, ugh. You know what this, as you were talking, I had this thought when I was writing my little short film, I was trying to figure out how people connect so quickly. And there was some article that I found that was like these questions that you ask somebody, like these like 36 questions that basically, after you're done asking these questions, you fall in love with this person like that you're talking to. And I forget exactly what the article was, but I'm sure you could Google it. And it's like, it's really deep, intimate questions. So I love that right off the bat, right out of the gate there, he's like, I'm going to ask you all these questions because that is opening the door for them falling in love.
It's almost like, let's get through the politeness of it all. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's get through the formality of it all and just cut to the meat of it because our time is limited.
Yes.
And so that's what he was trying to do. He was like, I sent something here. Like, we will be able to tell real quick whether or not there's more here.
Yeah.
And like you said, worst case scenario, you get on the next train.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. If you're not into me, if you're not having a good time, you can go ahead and hightail it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is when they go into the record store.
Oh, this is the best.
Oh my God. So there are a lot of like amazing moments in this film, but this moment. Okay. So they take an album into a listening booth. They're actually listening to Kath Bloom's Come Here. And you might not know this, Amy, their reactions were authentic. Linkletter told the New York Times, that's the only time I withheld anything from the cast. The lyrics were in the script, but they had never actually heard the song. So you can see them really listening because they've never heard that yearning, creaky thing in Kath Bloom's voice that's so moving.
I think that's why it seems so magical in this moment, because they're real, honest reactions. And I love that he did that. He knew. Good job, Richard.
Good job.
Yeah, good job. Like
that's really total gold star.
Very much a gold star. The looks, it's just the tension, the sexual tension, the tension, the general emotional tension.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
It's beautiful. Hawk said, it's probably my single favorite take of anything I've been involved in.
Wow.
Yes. And Delphi said, that was really special. It was like magic. Each time I felt Ethan looking away, I would look at him and vice versa. I almost fell in love with him right there. But then Rick said, cut. So this is the moment where like, you're waiting for the kiss, right?
Yes. And you're waiting for it.
There are so many tender, like almost moments.
Yeah.
Like it leads you right up to it and then it backs away.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's a romance in that.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
I've never thought of it like that before, but that is also part of the romance, that it just keeps you guessing, keeps you wondering, keeps you hoping. All of that keeps alive by it doing that. Yeah.
And that's real life.
Yes. Yes.
Kate and I, on a few episodes, we had talked about some moments where it's like, if this was a romantic movie, this is the romantic payoff that would happen next. That just doesn't. That's real life. Sometimes these moments, it's like you're almost there. You're like on the precipice of something big and magical. And then for whatever reason, fear, insecurity, whatever, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And they're dealing a lot with they have a lot of insecurity that both of them are just kind of struggling with or dealing with or managing, but they're trying to also figure out how to break through that. And I think that's part of the beauty in that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is when we cut to scenes of them walking around Vienna. They visit the cemetery. They arrive at Vienna's iconic Riesenrad, a 19th century Ferris wheel at sunset.
Oh, yeah.
This is where Celine says to Jesse, are you trying to say you want to kiss me? He says yes, and they kiss, and then she hugs him.
Yeah, so tender.
That's not something you see a lot.
No. They're kissing, and then she's just embracing.
I know.
And then we see him like kind of really embracing her. And it's almost a deeper connection, I feel like, just this embrace rather than, oh, I'm just going for the kiss. But they're just, I'm going to embrace you.
It was almost like the kiss was the vehicle
to the
hug rather than, I mean, that's how I took it too. I was just like, wow, it's exactly what you're saying. The real intimacy is in that hug. It was not in the kiss. And that's not something we see.
Yes, I know. And also, I don't know if you heard this or noticed it, but I'm just hearing the leather jacket every time. Like it's just so, it also feels intimate that you hear his leather jacket move. I
didn't catch that.
I just love that. I don't know. It just makes it even more of a intimate moment for me. Like, wow, you're like right there. Like you feel like you're the one like actually
being hugged.
In that, yeah.
This film is embracing us, Amy. Literally. As we embrace it, it embraces us.
Yes.
So I actually have some interesting trivia about this scene. Linkletter said, we tried to shoot it at sunset, but they would only stop the Ferris wheel for 10 minutes and then we'd go around and do it again. We had 3 different light levels by the time we finished. So we went back a week later and reshot that in the morning, and they let us stop it for an hour. When you see their first kiss, that was shot in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were not shutting that at sunset for them. And then to make it even more challenging, Delpy is afraid of heights. Yes, Hawk said, try making out with someone who's absolutely petrified. It was challenging, and I don't think she was terribly impressed. She'd been with a lot more interesting men than me. And she said, I have never been on a Ferris wheel since. Yeah, no. I know. When you act, you have to get over your fears constantly. I'm also shy with men, and I had to kiss someone who was a friend at that point. It was scary.
But I think that works, though. It works for the scene. It works because it is scary, totally scary and petrifying and all of that at the same time. And you want it so bad. Like,
right.
And I think that's another reason probably why that works so well. And because they're actually experiencing these real emotions that are or are not connected with the scene, we don't know. And that's part of what, being an actor is all about. Like your actual real emotion that you're experiencing or the real context of the way you're experiencing the scene might not be what the actual scene is about, but it helps. It is like, a vehicle for the scene and what you're doing in the
Yeah. We see them continue to walk and talk. This is when we learn that Jesse's parents are divorced. His mom even told him that his dad was pissed when she got pregnant.
Yeah, that was weird.
I know. He thought of him as a big mistake.
Is it like a parent? I'm like, why? What? Even like, as a child of divorced parents, like I
know
that I can't imagine like, you're a parent being that cruel.
I know. He said, you know what? It shaped the way I think. I always saw the world as a place where I wasn't meant to be. And you know what? I learned to take pride in it. And this really is the root of his cynicism.
Yeah, he is so cynical. Yeah.
In his heart, he's a romantic. We see it. He got off the train in Vienna with the stranger. But the other side of him is like, and we see it later, with the palm reader and the poet.
Yes.
We see it later. Yeah.
Yeah. His cynicism just starts creeping out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in contrast, Celine's parents are married and they're happy together. And she alludes to the fact that this is kind of a lot of pressure to live up to. And we learn more about that, as she reveals more about her romantic history later. So this is when they go to the cafe and encounter the eclectic palm reader.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
She reads Celine's palm and she tells her, you've been on a journey and you're a stranger in this place. She said, you're a seeker and you're interested in a woman's creativity. All these things are true. But Jesse's not buying it. She looks at his palm and she tells him, you'll be all right. And then she says to Celine, he's learning.
Yeah. I love that. He's so hurt by that though. And like, but he can't show that he's hurt. Like, I think that's why he's like, they're all palm readers. They're just, say that to everybody. But he's like so defensive.
He's saying like, I love what she said. And he's like, And the look on her face is so telling because she doesn't outrightly say it, but we see disappointment in her eyes when he like poops all over that experience.
Yeah. And she makes this like face. She goes like, like you're so like crazy, like, like she makes this like little face you're like, oh, this is the first moment where I think she's like, oh, this is not as perfect or as ideal as I was thinking it might be.
It is. It's the first time there's any sort of hint of like, okay.
Yeah, this might not be all it's cracked up to be.
Right. So they visit a church. They continue to stroll through Vienna at night. They stop sometimes to kiss. And, Celine says like, look, if we were together all the time, what would be the first thing that drove you crazy about me? And, he's smart. He refuses to answer that question. Yeah. But he asks her the same question. She does admit, I didn't like your reaction about the palm reader.
Yeah. And I love that they're open to that they kind of like deal with what's in front of them, that she's not afraid to kind of say what she thought about that, and that she's open in that sense. I like that.
I don't think I would have been honest about that at that age.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah. No, not at all. No. I would have been like, oh, whatever. Like just trying to like,
yeah, I would have been like,
off.
I'm not answering that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that, she's brave enough to put that out there. Yeah. And I think that also says something about their connection. Like maybe if she didn't feel as much of a connection or as intimate of a connection, she wouldn't feel as safe to
do that.
Go Celine.
Go Celine. Feminist icon. Yes. So this is when they encounter the poet.
Yes.
On the street, who offers to incorporate any word of their choosing into an original poem. Mm-hmm. And he says, if you're moved by the poem, you can pay me. If not, it's all good. So Celine chooses the word milkshake. Now, listeners, you're in for a real treat. Amy and I talked about this. Amy's a professional actress. I said, hey, would you be up for providing us with like a dramatic reading of the Milkshake Poem?
Yes. I love this poem so much. I love it.
I do too.
Love it. Just love it.
It's so beautiful. I can't wait to hear you and your dramatic rendition of this poem. Right. So whenever you're ready, Amy.
Okay, let's do it. Daydream delusion, limousine eyelash. Oh, baby, with your pretty face. Drop a tear in my wine glass. Look at those big eyes. See what you mean to me. Sweet cakes and milkshakes. I'm a delusion angel. I am a fantasy parade. I want you to know what I think. Don't want you to guess anymore. You have no idea where I came from. We have no idea where we're going. Lodged in life, like two branches in a river, flowing downstream, caught in the current. I'll carry you. You'll carry me. That's how it could be. Don't you know me? Don't you know me by now?
Oh,
love it.
You're so good.
Thank you. I love this poem.
I do too.
I love how the guy reads it in the movie too. I'm so glad they asked him to read it, because he just has this cool vibe about him. Like, yeah, he's like smoking a cigarette. Yeah. And
I don't know. It's so European and like deep and beautiful and
oh my goodness,
seemingly effortless for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were your favorite lines in this? Like, is there anything that jumped out to you?
I love you have no idea where I came from. We have no idea where we're going.
That's exactly what I chose.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I have it right here.
Oh my God.
Celine is impressed. I thought he was impressed. I mean, they both paid him.
Yeah. I think he was impressed too.
So he's impressed, but then he has to, again, go the cynicism in him, poop all over it. He's like, I bet he already had that written and he just plugged in the word.
He's still putting on his mask, his face. Like he has to put his front.
That facade. Yes.
Facade. That's a better word. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm like, what is the word?
We find out soon enough, he runs out of money, like fully runs out of money. And he gave his money to the poet. Like it had to have been worth something to him.
I'm sure it was. And, I wonder, like, did she keep it? Did he keep it? Where's that poem?
I thought about it too.
Where's that poem now? Who kept it? Like, where did it go?
Thank you for doing the reading. That was so fun.
Yeah.
So great.
Fun to do.
So this is when they go into a club and Jesse asks her if she's dating anyone. And I'm just like, wow, by now you two have been together so long.
Yeah.
Kissed, you've hugged,
yeah.
You've shared your deepest, secrets.
Mm-hmm. And now you're going to be like, oh, so do you have a boyfriend? Am I? Whatever, dude.
So weird. She reveals that 6 months ago, she was dating someone who was stupid, ugly, bad in bed, and an alcoholic.
And then she was like, so hurt.
She wasn't the one that broke up with him. He broke up with her.
I know. And it says so much about her, how she's like, I think on the inside, she's just like, I'm insecure. She's just insecure. I can't leave this guy.
I know.
Even though he's all these bad things.
She fantasized about killing him, which I loved. And she told her shrink, and the shrink called the cops on her.
I know.
When Celine asks Jesse if he's dating anyone, he reveals that he wasn't just bumming around Europe for a cheaper flight. Yeah. He said, I saved up. I came here to meet my girlfriend in Spain. As soon as I got here, like, she completely blew me off.
Yeah. And I can kind of relate to Jesse, because that's kind of what spurred me into going to Europe. I had a boyfriend who had just broken up with me this summer before I went to Europe. And I was like, what do I do? I was devastated. I was heartbroken. And I was like, what else can I do? I can't just stay here. I can't stay here. I got to go. That's when I chose to study abroad, and so glad I did that. So
wow. That's such a brave step to take when you're feeling particularly vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I love this idea though. It's sort of like Under the Tuscan Sun, that film.
Yes. I love that movie.
Yes. I love that movie too. Like a bad breakup or divorce or whatever. And someone being like, I need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
I need to discover more about myself. I need to get out of everything around me that reminds me of this person.
Experience something new. Yeah. Just get everything about that person out of your head, go into a new situation and see what happens. Yeah.
Did it work? Did it help heal you?
Well, the funny thing is that right when I was about ready to go, then he was like, oh, let's get back together.
Oh
and
my God.
Like,
of course. You know what? Yeah. That's the way they do that.
Yeah, they totally do that. I know.
I'm not a man hater. You guys are cool. It's fine. But like young men, this is a move.
Yeah, it is a move. Yeah, it was totally a move. And so I was like, so I went over there, like, still kind of like in this weird moment. Like I was like, oh, but I'm still kind of in love with him. But at the same time, like, I'm over here. So it kind of I don't want to blame him. It was my fault, but I was like, it kind of stunted like me really trying to have a romantic, encounter. Like, I think I was still kind of like,
your heart's still kind of questioning.
So yeah, I know. So, but
we can blame him, Amy. It's fine. I think we should. Yeah. I think we should. Enough time has passed. Let's just blame him.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay. So this is really, I think, what causes Jesse's real cynicism. I don't even think it's really rooted in his father. He says, like, I think on some level, women like the idea of destroying a man. Like, he said that. She obviously disagrees, but like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah. Before that, she's like, oh, who broke up with you?
Right.
She's like, okay, who broke up with you?
I mean, clearly there's some pain here for a reason. Yes.
Yeah.
So he said, sometimes he dreams of being a good husband and father, and yet sometimes it seems silly, like it would ruin his whole life. He said, if I'm totally honest, I'd rather die knowing I was really good at something than just being in a good, caring relationship.
I was like, whoa, because sometimes, honestly, sometimes I feel like, oh, am I just a mom, or am I something else, something more? Like, you want to kind of be something else, but at the same time, you have to be open to life and relationships.
I think it's about being balanced in your humanity, right? Sure, you could, at the exclusivity of everything else in your life, you could pour all of your energy into being good at the thing. He said, I would rather die knowing I was really good at something.
Yeah.
She contradicts that by saying, like, look, I knew a guy who had poured his whole heart and soul into his career. And at the end of his life, he was like, I wish I had chosen differently.
I know. I think it's a question that, when you're that age and that you're that young, you feel like, oh, I don't need anyone, I'm fine by myself. But when you mature and you realize, oh, that's really what life is about, is about the relationship, is about the connection, is about people you love.
And I mean, what do they say? Happiness is love, full stop. That's what it is. And you can love a career, but does it love you back?
Not in the same way.
Not in the same way. And this, again, goes back to what you were saying about Celine in her struggles as a feminist, as an independent woman. She said, I would try to be this person on the outside, but loving someone means so much to her. She said, I always make fun of it and stuff, but isn't everything we do in life just a way to be loved a little more?
It's true.
I think it is.
Yeah. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're there in this town, in this moment with each other to be loved a little more. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite moments. They go to a restaurant and Celine pretends to call her girlfriend on the phone.
This is the best. This is my favorite moment too, actually. This is my favorite moment.
I love how she pronounces the ring of the phone.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, she's so European.
She's so French. Oh, she's so French. She's so cute. She's so cute.
She makes him pick up the phone as if he's her girlfriend, and she picks up her pantomimed phone and she's like, I met a guy on a train. We're in Vienna. She's like, I was ready to get off the train with him, even after we had only been talking for a short while. She admitted it.
She says it was the grandmother, the hose moment. Yes. And I'm like, yeah, you can see it. I mean, I feel like I fell in love with him then too. Like I would totally, after that moment, get off the train with him too. Like, because
she said, he's so cute. He kisses like an adolescent.
I love that.
He's like, what? And then she makes Jesse pretend to call his friend to catch up. And Jesse reveals that he didn't stay longer in Europe for the cheaper flight. Yeah. He just didn't want to go home. And he met someone who's an angel. She's smart and beautiful.
Yeah. I love this moment the most because I feel like this is where, especially in Jesse, like you really see his guard come down.
Yeah.
You really see him really vulnerable for the first time. And their insecurities aren't there. They're saying what's really on their mind. And they are both accepting and understanding of each other when they reveal those real truths and those deep kind of secrets that they've been carrying around.
And it's like they say them to each other while not saying them to each other.
Yes.
So layered. I love it.
Yeah, it's the best.
So they continue walking the streets at night and they finally address the big question. Will they see each other again?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I could come back to Paris. And she's like, I could fly. But remember, she's afraid of flying. Celine said, people exchange phone numbers and addresses and it just doesn't work. She suggests that, maybe tonight should be it. And he agrees. He's like, okay, we'll just make tonight great. No delusions, no projections.
Yeah.
They shake hands to their one and only night together and the hours that remain. What are your thoughts?
On one hand, I love that they do that they are like, let's just live for this moment and not worry about it and not, project anything onto it. And we will enjoy these few moments together. And that's it. It kind of makes it even more special and even more sacred in a way.
I mean, it's so bittersweet, that idea, because I think they both want it to continue, but then like the reality of it is like, long distance things, they're hard and they don't really work. And is one night enough to keep us connected in this?
Yeah. How is this realistic? But at the same time, you're like, oh, but what if they really have a connection? And that's also kind of what is so different about this movie is that they make that pact and it's not like the typical romance where they're just happy ending. They're going to be real about it and make that choice.
Yeah, like as much as I love Nancy Meyers' The Holiday, do you know that film?
Oh, yes, love that movie.
Nancy
Meyers, yes.
Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, they're like, can we make it work? How are we going to do this? In the end, they have a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I think when you're a young person, you're like, yes, I have this amazing connection with you, but like, I'm going to have amazing connections with lots of people.
Yeah. But they were also self-aware enough to understand that, like, oh, we are too young. Oh, and I feel like me at that age, I would have been like, oh no, let's exchange numbers and we'll make it work.
Oh my God, 100%. I would have been all in. I would have been like, okay, so I'm studying abroad now and we're together and that's how it's going to be.
Yes. So they're very courageous.
Yes, they are. So they go into a bar, and this is when Jesse asks the bartender for a bottle of red wine because he only has one night with this amazing girl that he met and he doesn't have any money. And I love that the bartender, I mean, he's clearly a romantic at heart.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Okay.
He's like, here you go. Yeah. It did. And without even really thinking about it. And I feel like That's part of the beauty of Europeans and European, like, and being
like the culture of romance is
Yes.
really, it's valued.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, okay, here, you give me your,
like that makes sense to them.
Yeah. Whereas I think if you did that in America, they would just be like, what? No.
Like, I don't know you. You just walked in off the street. You want a free bottle of booze. Like, what is this about?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe someone would be moved enough by the possibility of that as a true story. But yeah. And meanwhile, she's, stealing wine glasses. I'm like, you guys could have just drank out of the same bottle. It would have been fine. Like, this was pre-COVID. Come on, guys.
Oh yeah. I know. I thought about that. I was like, ew, like, oh, but they're young. I think when you're young, you don't care. You're just,
it's fine. Yeah. So at the park, they open the wine and they begin to kiss. He wants them to see each other again. And she says, look, I don't think we should sleep together because it will just make me miss you more.
Yeah. That's revealing her vulnerability there too. She's like, oh, I just don't want to be like the French girl you slept with.
Right.
In Europe, you're the male fantasy of that. And I like that she calls him out. Like they're really straightforward with each other and talk about it. And I think that's really mature. Like, I feel like I couldn't have done that, at that age.
I don't know that I could do that now, Amy. I mean, I've been married 100 years, but like, I honestly don't know. That level of honesty is challenging.
It is.
So, okay, she says this, yes, but they kiss some more and then it's unclear whether they have sex.
Yeah.
Although Linkletter said, technically, you can see it any way you want. If you look closely, she's dressed a little differently. He's talking about in the morning. He said, so if you really do the math, you go, okay, that dress had to come off to get that shirt off. Something happened. I think all the hints are there.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
In real life, the Times asked Linkletter in regard to his own romantic night, did he sleep with the woman that he met? And he didn't answer because he wanted to, quote, leave a little mystery. And be a gentleman. So good for you, Linkletter. You shouldn't have answered
don't kiss
that.
and tell.
That was kind of a crappy question, but I like that they asked it, but it was kind of rude.
Yeah.
So the next morning, they're walking a little. They have that sweet moment where they take like mental photographs of each other.
Yeah.
This is when we get the iconic image of her laying on the statue or fountain steps, whatever that is, with her head in his lap and he's caressing her hair and face. That's the cover art. They're so forlorn. Like they know this is almost over.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is no one knew quite how the film was going to end. Linkletter said, we shot in chronological order and worked on the script every weekend throughout the shoot. We went pretty far into this thinking they weren't going to plan to meet again. And the night before, we were up until 3 a.m. rewriting the final scene.
Wow.
I kind of love that they didn't know.
Yeah. It helps. I think it is really clear in the whole rest of the movie that they didn't know because, it's leading you to that moment where you don't know if they're going to see each other again.
As an actor, do you think that would have changed the way they played it had they known one way or the other?
I think so. I think so. I mean, obviously, if you're an actor, you're playing in the moment, but I feel like it being left open leaves that possibility and leaves that magic that can be there in the moment when you're in the scene.
Yeah. They're now at the train station. It's time for her to get on the train. Oh, this kills me.
This moment. I know.
Celine tells him to have a great life.
Yes.
And he's like, I hate this. And they kiss. And, like time is ticking. Like you feel that. That's the big thing happening. There's just this tension of time. It's so stressful. Jesse's like, all this bullshit about not seeing each other again. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And the truth is he hasn't wanted to do that all along. But now, like you said it. And so they negotiate seeing each other like, okay, we'll see each other again. Okay, like in 5 years. And it's like, that's too long.
Yeah.
They negotiate it from 5 years down to 1 year. And then they settle on 6 months. And then it's like 6 months from when? 6 months from today? 6 months from yesterday?
But it's going to be freezing. Like, it's going to be snowing. Like, but why? What?
What? Okay. 6 months from last night, June 16th. They agree not to call or write. Ooh.
And in that day, like you have obviously no other way to get a hold of each other except if you exchange numbers. Like there was no was there email? Maybe there was email.
Ethan Hawke addressed this. In 2020, Hawke told the New York Times, "My daughter decided to watch the movie with some of her friends. And there was a certain envy they had for that time when you didn't have email." Okay.
Yeah.
So if there was email, it was real new.
It was real new. Yeah.
He said, "Life insisted that you live in the moment more. There's something about always being digitally present that allows you to not be present. And part of what Jesse and Celine try to do in that movie is actually be present with each other."
Yes. And I think that is what is the most beautiful part about this movie is that they are present with each other. They're in the moment the whole time. They really are. And you can see it in everything they do and in all the places that they go and that they experience. They're in the moment. And that's also what's beautiful about that time is that, the only maps you had were like in a little guidebook or like an actual map.
Yes.
And you had to, there's no Yelp. Like you had to just figure out, like ask people on the street. And that's what they're doing. They do in the whole movie. They talk to this person, they go to this person and they have real encounters. And I think, now we don't experience as much of that.
Oh, we don't at all.
Yeah,
like you can become so self-contained.
Yeah.
You can have your Google Translate and you can have your walking directions through Google Maps. You don't need to interface the way you needed to back then. And we lose a lot in that.
We do.
David Sims of The Atlantic said, "There are a million reasons you couldn't make Before Sunrise again. Watching the film again conveys how Jesse and Celine's journey is joyously free of the internet or smartphones. Yes. Their dramatic parting has all the more weight because there's no Facebook for them to connect on."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That's what makes it so much more romantic.
Yes. They kiss again. She gets on the train. We then cut to all the scenes now in daylight of the places that they were at night.
I love that ending montage with all.
Oh, it's so amazing. Did you notice though, when they pan to the park, the wine glasses and the wine bottle are there?
They're still there.
This is what's left. And an old lady walking by.
Yeah.
And so the final images we see are Celine on the train looking out the window and she smiles at the memory. And then we see Ethan Hawke and where is he?
I think he's on a bus.
He's on the bus.
Yeah.
Yes. And he closes his eyes and he smiles.
Yeah.
So obviously the film allows the audience to decide whether or not the couple kept their 6-month date. But Linklater said neither he nor the two actors ever doubted that the date would be kept. Except if you see the film 9 years later, if you see Before Sunset, we find out Celine didn't show.
It's because her grandmother died. Yeah.
Her grandma died. I'm basing this off of memory. Did he at the beginning of their meeting say he didn't show and then later reveal that he did?
Yeah.
So obviously in the second film, which takes place 9 years later, Before Sunset in 2004, they meet again because Jesse's in Paris for a book signing of a book that he wrote detailing his experiences with Celine. And she comes to the book signing. Oh. What did you think about Before Sunset?
I love that movie.
Me too.
I think I almost loved it more.
Me too.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, like at that point in my life, I feel like these movies have really followed a lot of my personal journey. Like at that point I was actually married and I was not happy. And I was like, well, my first marriage was starting to end, and
much like Jesse.
Yes, much like Jesse. So, I feel like I followed Jesse, not Celine so much, but I feel like a lot of it's been more like Jesse in my.
And the timeline of events matches, which is amazing, Amy.
It's really cool. And Before Midnight, like now they're with their new spouse and new partner and having kids and,
and the pressures of that. I mean, I was so excited in 2013 when Before Midnight came out. I was like so thrilled. It was a tough one for me. Like it's
me too.
The realities of career and having children and a marriage that maybe isn't so magical anymore. And like they had this great grand love story that we were all involved with, right? Like we felt like we were part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, in the end, I'm sorry if you guys haven't seen it. The movie came out in 2013. You're really, really late. Like, spoiler alert, skip ahead if you don't want to hear this part. Like, they're contemplating ending their marriage, right? It's dark and they argue and it's hard. And they ultimately decide to stay together. But like, it doesn't feel like a great prize at the end of the film. Yeah. It didn't leave me inspired the way the other two films did.
I agree with that. Like exactly the same. And I think I've only seen Before Midnight once. And the other two movies I've seen
like a million times. Yeah.
Because it's just so, it feels so good to want to follow these characters throughout that. But that one is hard to watch. And I think when I saw it, I was like, I just had a baby. I was like, I was like,
it's heavy.
Like, I don't know if I can handle this right now. So
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So they had put out the second film 9 years later. They put out the third film 9 years after that. 9 years after Before Midnight. I can't do that math. What's that? 2022. So this year in June, Delphi was asked, is there going to be a fourth installment?
Oh.
She said, we, the three of us, agreed we couldn't come up with something good for a fourth one. It was an idea none of us liked. And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So I think we're done.
Yeah. I think it works as just keeping that trilogy. Although I hate to see them leave off on that note.
I do too.
Yeah. I would love to see it come around
right. As empty nesters, now that the kids are gone, what did you decide with your careers and how did you make it work? And did you make it work? I don't know.
I want to have more hope for them that it's going to be okay.
I know. Song that she sings at the end of For Sunset.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you download that on
I know. I wish you could.
Did she write it? I don't know.
Yes, that's her own writing.
I love it so much. She's such a talent.
So good. I've seen her, I went to a film festival when she did 2 days in Paris and saw her talk about the movie. I went to a panel where she was
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she was great. It was so wonderful.
She's so smart. She's spoken openly about how women earn so much less in Hollywood. Yeah. She's been very vocal about that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad.
Yeah. When Delphi looked back on Before Sunrise, she said, Before Sunrise is a very romantic film. And somehow I never had that romantic, dreamy encounter in my life. Movies are magic a bit. Life isn't. I don't know that life isn't.
I disagree.
I love her and I don't think that life isn't magic. There has to be magic and the hope of magic for all of us.
With my husband, I feel like that was magic because I just have to tell you the story really quick. Can I tell you the story about how that happened? So
100%. I don't want to pry, but yes, please.
So, Ludo went to our high school but I didn't know him then. And then we were college friends, but I was dating the other person that, broke up with me and then was getting back together. And then I got married to that person and then I got a divorce. And then years later, it was actually 9 years after we graduated.
Shut up, Amy. This is freaking me out.
Yeah. One of our professors in the theater department, he unfortunately passed away and there was a memorial service, a funeral for him at the school. And we sat next to each other, Ludwig and I, and we were both single at the time. And it was and we were such good friends before that. We were really good friends. We did a lot of stuff together when we were in college and, plays and everything together and classes and all that. And he was my favorite actor. And, so I was like, oh, cool. It was really fun. We were just talking and then it was kind of magical. Then he was a few days after that, he emailed me and he's like, hey, let's go meet for coffee. And I was like, yes. And it just was boom. It was such a magical moment. It was wedding and a funeral kind of thing,
Wow. When did you get married?
We got married in 2013 when my son was a year old. So we didn't get married until my son was a year old. We had what I would say an impromptu kind of emotional marriage. Like we were traveling in Armenia with a group of travelers, and we, this was in 2011 and before my son was born. And all the people that were in our traveling group, they were like, you guys should get married. Here, there's a church. There's like a million churches in Armenia. And, so they're like, get married in this church, get married in this church. They were all,
oh my gosh,
get married. And so one night we were having dinner, as a group, and this band started playing these songs, and they started playing some like of the traditional Armenian wedding songs that you would play at an Armenian wedding. And one of the men in the group was like, hey, you know what? I'll be the, priest. And then the other person's like, I'll be your dad walking you down the aisle. And we did a whole marriage ceremony there in that restaurant with the band playing, and we did the dance afterwards. So I really feel like we got married there. Then.
Amy, that's so magical.
It was very magical. And yes, it was incredible.
Talk about the brave, adventurous things you do while traveling. I mean, clearly you were ready to do it. I'm not suggesting that only, the bug of travel inspired us, but that is so amazing. Yeah. What an incredible story. Yeah. So you have 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you, Amy, I am very, very much enjoying your mom songs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys. So Amy, she's an amazing performer, obviously, but she writes these songs about real mom life and she performs them. And I'm currently obsessed with the Staring at My Phone song.
Oh, yeah.
So what inspired you to start writing mom songs? I'm into it. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. Well, I've always been like a singer-songwriter. Like I actually, performed in Hollywood clubs, back in the day before kids as a little singer-songwriter places, and, I've, been playing guitar, as you know, for a long time and writing songs. And, I just felt like the day-to-day life and the day-to-day struggle of being a mom, and in my experience as being a mom, I would just find myself throughout the day, just to kind of keep me sane, just riffing on little tunes. And then I was like, hey, this is something. And so I started just taking those tunes, putting them to my guitar, sometimes piano, but mostly my guitar. And I was like, hey, let me just put this out there. I was like, this will be fun. And I tried to keep them. I was keeping them a minute long to be on Instagram. So yeah. So, and that was kind of a good challenge. I could just, and doable. I could write a 1 minute, funny, fun little relatable mom song. And that's something that I could do and still be creative.
I'll tell you, Amy, it's just a matter of time until one of these mom songs goes totally viral.
Thank you. Awesome.
You guys need to check out Amy. She's on Instagram at Garis Groove. So Amy, what's next for you?
Well, I have a plan to actually record my mom songs. And do something with that. So that's my next project.
Oh, that's so exciting. Okay. So do you have tons of mom songs that we haven't seen and heard?
Yeah, there's a lot. So I'm trying to make some longer, and, some would be a normal song rather than just a minute. Right. Some would just be a minute.
And the beautiful part about it is there is no end to the inspiration and material. I mean, kids, the ideas just keep coming.
I can imagine.
Kids are crazy amazing. They're amazing. They're super weird. Just when you think it can't get any weirder, it does. And that's just fodder for amazing creativity. So I'm so excited to see what you do with this. It's so fun.
Thank you.
So fun. Oh, we didn't even talk about your self-tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Amy records these self-tapes. Some of them are actual auditions. Mm-hmm. Some of them are you preparing for auditions? Is that correct?
Yeah. Most of it is practice, audition practice. And so it's just a way to keep the wheels greased. You have a place to put it, and show it, then, it's good practice, and that you decide, okay, this is the take I want to use. So when you're not actually having auditions, you can keep that practice up, and it really helps. And then you can just do the scenes you want too, rather than get an audition that,
It's really fun because
Yeah, it's great.
I get to see you in all these different kinds of roles, and these self-tapes are really fun, you guys. You can see Amy's incredible range.
Oh, thank you.
She shares them on Instagram at Amy Garis _self-tapes. And of course, we will link to all of this in the show notes. But Amy, it was such a pleasure to have you on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was total honor and a pleasure. And it was awesome. It was so much fun talking to you. And it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. And please remember to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And of course, you can find us on the web at theuntitledgenxpodcast.com and on Facebook and Instagram at The Untitled Gen X Podcast. We hope you keep in touch, beautiful people. Bye.
Bye.